The Keeping It Real podcast is a production of SPINMASTER MEDIA.
Art doesn't just imitate life. Art is life. And art offers the ability for people to experience emotions in a safe, contained space that they might not be able to experience otherwise. It's a healing way. It's a place for healing. It's a place for someone to go and grapple with their self, grapple with their emotions, grapple with their pain, their trauma in a contained way through the eyes of someone else.
Jacob Ellis, what's good?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'll be doing well. Not too shabby myself. I think today's a Tuesday. We had a great weekend.
Oh, really weekend was exhausting though, but it was fun.
It was exhausting
Especially
though.
the Filmmaker Friday. There were
Yes.
so many really cool and talented people we met there.
Yeah. This time it was like almost 500 people there. Usually it was less, but now it's like 500.
I'm glad it's popping off. The more people you know, the more people you connect with, the better you are to find people. The better
No,
place you
exactly.
are to make it work.
Exactly. You and I met at Filmmaker Friday.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Look at us.
Probably good. I know. No, you're like one of the few New York filmmakers that I got to know and stuff like that through I don't know. When did we actually? It was like November, if I remember.
It was, I think,
Right?
yeah, it was the Filmmaker Friday in November, so it was that Tuesday. It was the second Friday of the
Yeah.
month. Yeah.
It probably be that, yeah, because I was with Christian, Gabe, and Oscar around that time. I met them October before I met you. It's like this. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's kind of like not a cycle, but also just hey, this is my friend so and so. I can introduce you to this guy, and I was like, oh, this is nice. And I'm never gonna forget. We had so many great conversations that night.
It
It was
was a
really.
wild night.
We
It was a
were
lot
we
of
were popping off. We
We
were
basically
popping
just
off.
turned recluses and we're chatting at that table for 2 hours.
I know. At the McCarran Park House. Oh my
Karen Podcast.
gosh. At McCarran Park House in Brooklyn. By the way, if anyone who is like a New York creative, please go to Filmmaker Fridays. It's really good. It's so good. You'll get to meet new people, especially different entities of the industry. I when I first came in last August, my whole network was the whole plethora is from New York or even Philadelphia, everywhere. You never know who to meet, and also you never know who to collaborate as well. So it's a fun time. Shout out Parker for Filmmaker Fridays. I would love to give him a shout out for that one. He created this whole thing. Shout out Parker for Filmmaker Fridays, and also congratulations to him on his promotion to the DGA, the Directors Guild of America. Such an amazing feat. Congrats to him again. But other than that, yeah, no, humble beginnings, I guess, pretty recent.
Yeah,
You know.
there you go.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't think I can overstate the value of networking events and the ability to just communicate with people, especially smaller artists, especially younger artists. People are really hungry. People you can find and connect with that share your vision and you can create projects with.
Exactly. And that's how I kind of felt too. Cause when I was trying to find the people that I want to like you said, networking is the most valuable thing you can do. And it's also finding that commonality interest. And I feel like when I met you, I feel like it feels like we just clicked just like that. It's almost like you're meeting with or even just catch up with an old friend, or even just catching up with someone who's that shares that same interest even outside of films and stuff like that. So it's been fun for the most part. Definitely.
It's been tons of fun.
Yeah, it has
And
been
I
tons
think
of
so.
fun.
I think that I'm right now I'm working on a project, and even from the last Filmmaker Friday, I now have set up meetings with 4 or 5 different people to kind of talk about possibly how they could fit into the project, what roles they could help with, stuff like that. I found a costume director, possibly. I found a possible set designer.
Hell yeah, dude. That's just from the whole even hangouts like the Filmmaker Fridays that you just find your people just like that, and then
Exactly.
you just kind of find hey, are they kind of the right fit for the project that I want to make. So I think it's a beautiful thing to have. And to all the creators out there too, sometimes you have to utilize that. You know what I mean? No matter what, if it's freelance, full time, paid, unpaid, like we're all just trying to help each other at the end of the day. And like you did mention about your film, which we will obviously talk about, because like that's what we're here for, called Life and Record. That is the title of your upcoming short, which I'm very, very excited to talk to you much about. But like we'll get into that in the next few minutes. But like, yeah, I would just love to talk about like how to get started. Well, let me start with this though. I know a lot of people, even filmmakers alike, like I know we have this commonality of just like trying to get started with our shorts and like trying to find the steps of how to get there. I'm sure for you, like you have like an arts management company that you own. You kind of own that with a few founders as well, because you've been working very heavy on that, because we've had conversations before. Would love to know like how to kind of get started on like a short, even with your own budget or even ultra low or along those
I
lines.
think honestly, the biggest thing is people make too big a deal out of money. They have an idea, and their first
That's
thought is,
true.
oh, we need to have the money to do the idea. And ultimately, while money is nice, it makes a product better. You can pay the people you're working with, you can get better equipment. What a movie comes down to, and whether it'll be good or not, is the ability of the cast and crew. And so I found that I've had some moderate success with working with people who are passionate about the film industry, with maybe very little to no experience, but giving an opportunity to them to work on a film, produce something, be part of a project, and really, especially those younger, hungry people, look out and they build their own skills. So I started with my film journey back in 2021, 22, one of those years. I was working as a line cook. I had just graduated my first acting program, and I was kind of feeling a bit lost. And at this acting program, I met this guy, Satchel. He was the line cook right next to me. We got to talking. He was 18, freshly out of high school. And he was like, I'm gonna make a movie this summer. I really want to make a movie. And I'm like, oh, really? That's awesome. I'm an actor. I would love to like be a part of it. We got to talking, and within a period of 2 months, we had finished writing and finished filming for a feature. There was stuff like ADR and a couple of pickups we had to do after the fact, but we had done all the major work within a month and a half and under the budgets that we had of us just working at that restaurant. Now, we had a couple things that were in our favor. We had someone who was like buddies with a local shop owner, and we were able to do a lot of our shooting in houses, and we worked out deals to be like, okay, great, can we do it like this? One of our weeks of shooting we did up at a farmhouse. We knew the person who owned it, and they were like, "Yeah, you can stay. You can bring your cast and crew. You guys can stay here for the entire week and just film." But even when it comes to that type of stuff, there were shots that were like, we had to film a car chase. We had to do like a shot on a beach. Things where there is always the fear of, oh, we need to find the budget for that. Oh, we need to get all the right equipment for it. And I think that as soon as you start thinking and limiting yourself within your ability of what you can do with money and what you can do with the equipment you have access to, that's where issues come in. That's where the problems come in with your ability to just start. And I think that's the thing that people need to figure out the most is how to just start. And I would fundamentally say it comes down to find a couple people you trust. Write a short script that's not like full blown action with huge explosions and fighting, but one that might set some challenges. It might be things that are hard to film without those quote unquote larger budgets. But through the process, you'll figure out how. Through the process, you'll know. And maybe your first movie is not going to be great. My first movie wasn't. I know that. It was my first movie. It was his first movie out of high school, but we did it still, and it kind of launched us into a position where now we've done another feature. We have like 4 or 5 shorts right now that we've either acquired or we've been a part of in making in this last 2.5 years. And I think that ultimately that comes down to our ability to just say, you know what, fuck it, let's do it.
It's like everyone's got to start somewhere. I know what you and I and our journeys are different. It's kind of like we kind of started like, okay, like what kind of resources we have and like what kind of equipment we have. It's about kind of like trying to use the things we have. I mean, for me, like I used to have a Canon like in the early years, and then up and then kind of switched to like Sony as a bit of an upgrade, because like I want to make at least high quality films that like I love. Even too, like when I was like an undergrad, I used to like film by myself, because like that's kind of the skill sets you need to have. You have to like have a bit of heads here and there, like directing, writing, producing, editing. I did the whole plethora of that like throughout my for as long as I can remember. Like it's not easy, but like as long as you kind of like give it like a good story, it doesn't have to be like good or bad or even rough. Like, regardless, it's your art at the end of the day. So it's like absolutely like you take what you have and you take what you can get. I mean, even you like taking initiative of that is great. Because you found someone that like, hey, like I want to make stories, and it's like this is my passion. This is what I want to do, and then you took that and you just went with it. It's great.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have all these great ideas. Some people even go and they put them into scripts. But even with script writing, with writing, the hardest part is just getting started. I have a friend who I've talked to. We talk about writing, and he has all these amazing stories. But when it comes to the actual task of writing, he feels it's overwhelming. He doesn't know where to start. And I think that is also a very big barrier of entry for a lot of people is producing a movie, making a movie is a big task. And especially when you're not super experienced and maybe you don't have the most experienced casting crew around you, that task seems to become even more intimidating. But I can give a couple things which are just really helpful for the basics of just doing your first film. A lot of people don't recognize how easily accessible rentals are. You don't need to own your equipment. Most producers don't own their equipment. Most production houses don't own their equipment. They rent from rental houses. Same with the props. They rent them. And it's because they're prohibitively expensive. But I could go and rent a camera out for $150 a week, and it's a good camera. I could rent out a light set for maybe $200 for a week, and that's like full three-source lighting with like all the diffusers, all the tripods, everything we would need to film it with them. So first thing I would say if you want to do a film, first just write the script. Sit down, put pen to paper, give yourself a script so you have a base to work on. Then the next step from there is writing a breakdown. Breakdowns are fun. I enjoy them. Literally just going through your script line by line, highlighting all the different props, costumes, interesting shots, characters. What else is there? Set deck. All those types of aspects of the film that are going to have to be thought of in the budget, that are going to be thought of in the creative design of the film. I know that there's always, in my first film, all our costumes were grabbed from the local Goodwill, grabbed from the local thrift store. It's a fairly cheap and easy way for you to get those pieces that don't require you buying something brand new and having a giant closet full of clothes. You can get a couple pieces here and there. You can talk to your actors and see if they have costume pieces that they can bring in. All of those are really good resources that you need to rely on. So after the breakdown, then would come the cast list, crew list, and the budget. The budget is the hardest piece, but it's also the most necessary piece. Breaking down every single aspect of the script and breaking down every single aspect of the production. A couple of basic categories, which like set deck, food, depending on how you're traveling people or if it's local talent versus moving talent, is transportation costs, housing costs. All of those things need to be factored in and put down on paper so you understand what you're getting into. I have a fair amount of experience as a casting director, and I think this is a place where a lot of young directors and a lot of young people and a lot of people who are new to the industry get lost. I think it's a place where not as much thought is put into the process as is, and getting a casting director is often kind of a secondary thing for a lot of people. And I think that is such a key to a film, and the value of it isn't understood. There are so many small details, so much in the art of acting that's not noticed. If you have a good casting director who can come into the project unbiased, be able to give those opinions, it really can make for a better project. I know that I have some friends who are trying to cast a project right now, and I have not been helping them up until this point as a casting director. I'm going to be helping him soon. He met 5 or 6 people and has done 4 auditions and cast 3 people. When I go out and do it, I do a giant open call for stuff. I get 200, 300 auditions for a short. And from there, I'm able to see these are the people that we want. These are the people that are the best for the project. Because it doesn't matter ultimately how much the director and the actor like each other as friends. It matters how well they work together and working towards the goal of making a piece of art that is the best you possibly can.
I think you mentioned earlier about putting the pen on paper, having all these breakdowns and all, and like thinking about the budget and like let me remind people the budget in general is the most biggest thing that producers really kind of it's a bit challenging for producers in general, and I was thinking of like, okay, like as a producer, like you mentioned something in the lines of like, how to kind of like invest in your projects and stuff. But how do you do that without funding at all? Or you just self-funded yourself? Because I know a lot of people it kind of depends. It varies on like how much how much of the scope it is.
Like I said, we did a feature in 2 months and we completely self-funded it. We were all working full time and we just put any extra funds we had towards the film, even if it was like $400, $500 a month. We ended up with a fairly large budget because we put some of our savings into it too. But if you're working a job, hopefully you're not spending 99% of your paycheck on rent. There should be $100, $200 left over at the end of the month that you can kind of put away. Maybe it means you have to cut back on something like you get takeout one less time a week, or you buy one less nice pair of shoes. And yeah, it sucks. It's nice to have those nice things. But if you can get 600, 800, even $1,000 saved away in a matter of 4 or 5 months, you have the means to make a movie without relying on someone else giving you money. I'm talking to my friend Oscar right now, and we're talking about his film, and we found a location.
Shout out Oscar, our friend. Shout out Oscar, our friend, though.
A great guy.
He's a great guy. I mean, for those that don't know, we have a bit of our own like writers room group. We call ourselves the Straw Hats, hence the One Piece. That's another conversation for another day. Oscar has this. Who, me? Oh hell, no. Anyways, back to this. Oscar has a film in the works. It's about celebrating movies and stuff like that. And I remember like going into like these writer room meetups, and I remember he was talking about, okay, like I have my pitch deck, I have everything all good to go. Even so, you and I had this conversation too, like how to kind of minimize and like using the resources we have. I'm never gonna forget. I remember one day you were telling me about like you and Oscar found like this small theater to maybe kind of like utilize that as kind of like, let's say like set design or even production design of it. I was gonna say, could you tell me more about like? I mean, this is more on that sentiment too of like common pitfalls. I was gonna say, like, can you talk about like the common pitfalls about like, what producers are even kind of facing, or even stuff like what Oscar's doing?
The things is that they get stuck with finding the perfect location.
Yeah,
and I think the perfect location isn't the location that looks exactly like the one you want, but one that you can make look like you want. So I was talking with Oscar a while ago, and he's like trying to rent out like a big movie theater, and we were talking about like what was costing, and people were quoting him like $10,000 for a day.
Yikes, that's crazy. Actually, I can't even afford 10 grand for that movie theater.
And I'm like, that's not going to be reasonable. What we could do, and we started looking into, we found a wonderful place. We started looking into like smaller black box theaters, smaller theaters. And what we ended up planning on, we found a perfect place that actually does look like a movie theater. But even then we said, if we don't find a place that's perfect, what we can do is we can go to Michael's or like one of those fabric stores and we get a bunch of plain red fabric for super cheap and create covers for the chairs there. And that way they look like a movie theater. So there's a lot of really creative ways and tricks that you can do, ways you can retrofit location and make it look perfect when it's not a perfect location and when you don't have the budget for a perfect location. But also I think one of the biggest things that I've learned when I'm writing a script and when I'm creating a thing is the location has to be a character. It doesn't like a little bit about my script. My script just takes place in a room. That's one room. That's all that happens in it. It's two people talking in a room. But what I make sure to do is every single piece of detail in that room, I made a choice about. There's a reason things are where they are. There's a reason things are placed where they are. so that it adds another dimension onto the story. Location tells just as much about the story as the characters do. You walk into someone's house and the way they keep their house, their decor, all that stuff tells you about that person, even on a subconscious level. It might not be like, well, they have a live, laugh, love sign. That means they're this type of person, but it subconsciously hints you into an idea. Creating the location as a character is more important than just having a cool location.
You really dropped a gem, didn't you? Location as a character. I never heard that saying, by the way, but I'm glad you did because, like, now I'm thinking with the stories that I want to make, like, okay, like, I want to kind of just like think about that perspective. Where'd you learn that saying, if you don't mind me asking?
I learned that when I was at my theater writing course. So
Mm,
because of the set and being what it is, the set is inherently one, maybe two or three locations, or you have a set broken up into like the stage broken up in like 4 or 5 locations. And so with the very limited amount you can show of that world, every little piece counts. I had a teacher, Wendy Gorling. Now she's amazing, specifically a theater teacher. She taught mime and acting for me, but the thing that she always said was specificity, specificity, specificity. Specificity is key. And it's the same thing when you're reading a script, the same thing when you're writing a script, the same thing when you're designing a set, the same thing when you're designing a shot list or doing storyboards. Every single thing needs to have a reason.
it does.
Every single thing a character says in a scene is going towards its goal. It's using a different tactic to reach that, maybe, but you don't have people just saying words to say words. You need to treat the dialogue just as you treat the space. You don't just have the space filled because you have the space filled. You have the space filled to tell a story. I think,
Exactly.
forgetting his name now. Who was the director of Fantastic Mr. Fox?
Wes Anderson with a rule of thirds.
Yeah, Wes Anderson is a really good example, I think, of how he manages it. When
Oh,
you
he's
look
good
at
with it
Wes
too.
Anderson,
He's good with it,
oh yeah,
absolutely. With like his stop
when you look at
motion,
Wes
his live
Anderson,
action, of course.
yeah, when you look at Wes Anderson's film, everything that's in the room is placed there. Everything that's in a room is purposeful. It might be cluttered, it might be full of color, but it's purposeful. It conveys an emotion. It conveys an element of the story it hints. And I think this kind of leads me into something that's even more important for especially young filmmakers to think about is costume design.
Yes,
That's one of the biggest pitfalls I've seen people fall into and I fell into. You need to have an understanding of color theory. You need to have a continuity within the design of the characters. I'm talking again to my friend Oscar about how he's designing the costumes. And I'm like, okay, great. You're telling the story of 3 different groups. How do you tie these groups together? What is the group's color theory? What is their costume theory? So this group, it's young, like let's say it's young love. What color do you choose? Maybe more of a spring palette, maybe more of like a warm color palette. You might choose like brighter colors. You might choose like yellows, lush greens, maybe deeper reds. Whereas for like a group of teenage boys, maybe you're going to choose more gem tones, maroons, dark blues, stuff like that. Because ultimately, having that color shared between the group ties them together. Having similar costuming pieces ties them together. All of these things are elements to telling the story and to making the story feel just meshed. The costumes feel out of place, it's going to look out of place. The location feels out of place, it's going to look out of place. It's not, there's going to be something that doesn't quite mesh there. One of the things people need to do research on more and more because it's, again, another undervalued part of filmmaking. A lot of the times the most valuable parts of filmmaking are, oh, we need a good camera op, we need a good DP, we need a good first AD, we need a good sound mixer. Obviously, those are important. It's not going to look good, it's not going to sound good, but it doesn't matter how good of a DP you have if the set looks messy, if the costumes look messy. Sure, the shots may be great. Sure, the dialogue might sound crisp, but if there's that visual dissonance, it's not going to convey the story in the way you want to convey it.
and I feel like it drives the story or even a narrative forward. I mean, with your point of like color theory, because you use that kind of theory like in a few of the projects that you were in. How did you approach it?
What I approach it is oftentimes what I do is I talk to a costume designer. They know it better than I do. But in the case that I don't have the ability to, what I do is I look through and I'm like, okay, great. What are the emotions these characters are trying to convey? Colors have emotions tied to them. Subconsciously, we see a color and it has more of a sense of a type of emotion. Red, anger or passion. Love. Yellow, warmth, kindness, happiness. Blue is sad. Not literally, maybe more melancholy. Gray tells a bland story. Maybe that person's not very interesting. It's more beige, same thing. So finding what the central type of story you're trying to tell, finding who the characters are, and a way that you can match all their designs into the same like group of color theory. Like I said, gem tones. So you find a type of tone that you want. And there's going to be a wide array of colors in that tone, but by having them all be in that tone, it gives a sort of contrast. It gives a like a unity altogether. So I personally look at the different gem tones, spring tones, that type of stuff, warm, cold, and then from there I think about okay, what colors within those frameworks suit the characters best.
Yeah, I think those are the type of questions you might ask yourself as a storyteller. Like, okay, like, how can I match like the character's emotion on a screen and then off the screen? And I think that goes to show what you said like is very significant. So, like it's just like just gotta be mindful of like how the story kind of intertwines
And
that.
even then,
You know what I mean?
all that stuff can be done when writing the script. All that stuff is things that are included in the script. The set deck is included in the script. The color theory is included in the script. So when you're writing the script, you have to think about every single element. You could say someone stands in a room, or you could say someone stands in a room. There's a maroon couch, a grandfather clock in the corner, a bookcase that's filled with books, but they're all dusty. Cobwebs cover the ceiling. It gives a certain feeling to the room. It gives an emotion. You might imagine someone older living there, someone who used to read a lot, maybe they don't anymore. Someone who's kind of feeling a little bit dysfunctional in their lives, even just from that shot. So every single piece of the set matters. And you can write a film where you don't care about it. And that's fine. A lot of people don't. You look at the Avengers film have a lot of doodads and things in the backgrounds. A lot of filmmakers don't. But when you see a film where they're purposeful about it, I feel like it brings so much more depth to it.
And sometimes you gotta think like an artist too. Like, it's like you think of like painting, like you're brushing like a portrait or something. Like what do you kind of think in this regard? But yeah, no, absolutely. Sometimes you gotta think like an artist because artist has
Also,
their visionary.
I think a lot of this can come back down to the storytelling of a script, writing
Yeah.
the script. I think a lot of people get caught up on this one thing, and it's a really hard thing to work with and work around, is emotion words. When writing a script, you could say this character is sad, or you could say the character slumps down, their head falls to this ground and their eyes start to water. One tells a lot more, one gives a lot more to play with from the actor than the other. So emotional words are always a tricky thing to do. There are some points where obviously it's necessary, where you can't really convey it through a physical action in the same way, but as much depth you can give, almost every single emotional word you could write can be lengthened slightly, but use verbs to describe it. The visual cues of that. And I think another thing that people get really challenged by is people sit down and they try to write a script and it's intimidating. I personally write a lot of times. I write off the top of my head. I just sit down and I write, and that's a hard skill to have. It's a hard skill to learn. It's a skill. It's not an innate ability. And I think the biggest part of helping build that skill is learning how to do the back work. So like the first step, write a breakdown, write a beat by beat, write a scene by scene. So you can see the full structure. One of the things that I will always attest to, and I do all the time when I write, before I even start writing, is I have an idea for a character, I write 2 to 3 pages of their life. I go all the way down. Maybe they're like 40 years old, but I go all the way back to elementary school. I talk about their relationship with their parents. I talk about their relationship with the other students. I talk about their relationship with the teachers, the education system, whether they grew up rich or poor, whether they had any important people in their lives, whether they've lost people, traumas they've gone through, loves they've gone through, heartbreaks they've gone through, because all of that feeds into every single aspect of the way a character acts. I think so. One of the things I learned from acting that's kind of brought me into a lot more of my creative writing, a lot more of my work, is that you are who you are because of your habitual actions. Those habitual actions are formed by your body. Whether you hold your shoulder in a certain way, whether you have a limp in your knee, all of those things are manifestations of some form of trauma. They're tensions in your body. And so if you strip all those away, you have a blank slate. So when I go and I act, I always think about it's me with a different set of experiences. It's not I'm playing Hamlet. I'm playing me if I had the experiences of Hamlet's life. In the same way you can write your characters. It's you if you had these different experiences, but you need to know the experiences they've had to make them full. All those little ticks, all those little fidgets, the way to defend themselves, how their ego works, how their id works, their mentality works, it takes that. And I think the most valuable thing is having that right down, knowing that character inside and out, knowing all their past, even if it's something that's not relevant to the story ever, it's never mentioned. It builds up who that character is in the script and makes them full.
You mentioned your film a few times that you were making. Tell me about that. Like, tell me about your title, Life and Record.
Yeah, so I'm working on Life and Record right now. It's currently about 3 months out from going into production. It's around 10 to 15 minutes short. There's still some slight revisions happening to the script, but ultimately what it's about is about, I'll give you the quick log line. After arriving in purgatory, Arthur must listen to the recordings of his own life to make a decision whether to damn himself to heaven or to hell. And I think the most important part there is damn himself to heaven. It kind of talks about like some philosophical concepts of justice. It talks about some of that feeling of like he can choose, he makes the choice. But would going to heaven be the righteous choice? Would the knowledge that you don't necessarily belong there because of what you did in your life be more punishment than the punishment itself? So it follows Arthur, obviously. He dies and has to listen to the recordings of his own life. It's on cassette tapes. And throughout the play, he interacts with Angel. Angel kind of plays a double role. So Angel is the literal physical angel who's facilitating the listening, who's facilitating this experience that he's going through. But Angel also is the representation of his morals, of his guilt. And so throughout the piece, it's stated that he can only open that door once he knows 100% what his decision is. And some of the things are hard for him to listen to. Some of the things are incredibly challenging for Arthur to listen to. Some of the things force him to think about who he is and the harm he's done to other people. But through that comes a lot of interesting explorations of the human need to be the hero of their own story.
So, with those philosophical things in mind, what do you want the audience to take away from Arthur's story and how they can kind of get out of it?
I want the audience to step away with a question. So in the end, he makes a choice, but the choice is never shown. The audience is now privy to the things he's done in his life, and he chooses whether he goes to heaven or hell, but you don't know. The audience doesn't see. And so it leaves in the question of the mind, would that be the choice I make? What choice would I make in that situation? It offers a opportunity for the audience to take a similar experience to what Arthur did into their own lives, look at their past experiences, look at their lives from more of a subjective view, and truly see whether or not it's their own ego, their own self-justification of the harm, or if it's actually that they did the right thing. I have things in my life that I have regretted doing, and
we all go through that
for
one
the longest time
before.
justified those things in some whatever weird twisted way I could. But at a certain point, you have to go back and you have to face it and you have to recognize that sometimes you aren't the hero.
We're all not perfect, and I'm not perfect in my own life as well. As just to hear that, it's like you can kind of feel that relation that you're trying to bring on the screen, and you saying that is most important. Like, not everybody's a perfect person. Sometimes you just gotta like face your fears head on. No matter what it is, you have to face it head on and own up to it at sometimes, like Arthur would. For Arthur Wood, yeah. I know you guys are gearing up for production. You guys are launching your crowdfunding campaign very soon. I will put that in the description below if anybody wants to like donate or even like fund the film. We'd love to hear more about how can people or even like filmmakers, investors can like get involved with your film in any way, shape, or form, like anything like that.
Obviously, you can feel free to follow us on Instagram. I'm going to be having an Instagram made. It's going to be Life in Record Film. Hopefully that will be linked in the podcast episode so people can find it. And through there, I'll be releasing over the next few weeks interviews with some of the crew we have, some of the cast we have, the producing team, as well as sneak peeks at things like the poster draft and the storyboards. So you can kind of get an idea of what's happening, some of the more interesting action-y shots in the film. And then we're going to be launching the Kickstarter, obviously, and we're going to have some really cool offerings, depending on like tier you donate in. There's the basic one, which is just, $5. It's like $5. I think you get a digital copy of the film, and then $5 more is the digital copy of the film and a digital copy of the soundtrack. But even then, we have like things where it's like you can have your name featured in the script in the film on one of the cassette tapes and have it sent to you. So we have some really cool offerings there of ways that you can be involved and you can be a part of our film more than just like giving some money. You can have your name in there. You can have your name in the credits.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I will have that, like I said, in the description, when this episode releases, because this episode is not going to release until probably February. But yeah, like make sure you check out, like, his short film, socials, when it launches very soon. I'm very, very happy for you. This is very exciting that you're be able to do a short like this, or even a deep, like, short. I think it goes to show, like, okay, you feel like you want to impact so many people and kind of like give people some like deep thoughts and stuff along those lines that I kind of thinking in a philosophical perspective. So I'm very excited. Best of luck to the crew and the potential cast. I think you showed me of the lead for your short. He's gonna kill it, I'm sure. It's gonna be
He's a
great.
great guy. He's a fantastic actor, and I can't wait to see what he can do with the material.
I'm looking forward to it. Actually, speaking of, I got to start following the guy when you guys are in productions. That'll be awesome. There's this
What
last question I always ask every guest on the show. What's really real to you, Jacob?
what's really real to me? I think it's why I make art. I have this theory of the three screams, the three cries. It's things I've heard in my life, three instances of the same exact scream. The first was on a plane when a child's mother went unresponsive. And the second was of someone I knew who lost their father during an acting exercise where they were incredibly emotionally vulnerable. And the third was at the end of a play called Women of Troy, which is a great piece. And all those three screams were the same scream. It didn't matter if it was on the stage or in real life. It was the same scream. It was the same cry, that feeling of loss. And I think one of the things that's always going to stick to me is that Woman of Troy story. Basically, the show happens. The show is about basically what happened to the women of Troy the night that the Trojan horse opened up. The atrocities, the pain that was caused there. And so at the end of the play is the scream of someone who's just had their daughter killed, the cry of loss, of despair. And so the play ended, and this old man walked up to the mic, and he did not look like he was a typical theater goer. He looked like a plaid shirt, long beard, kind of rough looking farmer type of guy, trucker type of guy. And he walked to the mic and he looked at the lead actor and he said, I hated it. And she asked him why. And he said, because that's the same scream my daughter made. And he started bursting out in tears. And I think that feeling, that scream, is something that's kind of driven me because art doesn't just imitate life. Art is life. And art offers the ability for people to experience emotions in a safe, contained space that they might not be able to experience otherwise. It's a healing way. It's a place for healing. It's a place for someone to go and grapple with their self, grapple with their emotions, grapple with their pain, their trauma in a contained way through the eyes of someone else.
Jacob Ellis, thank you so much for thank you for coming on the show. It
Thank
really
you.
means a lot. No, thank
I really
you.
enjoyed it. And I can't wait to listen to more episodes.
And I can't wait for many more adventures to come. You and I, the rest of
Yeah.
our Straw Hat Film crew,
We got
we
many
got
more movies to make.
we got many more movies, more shorts, more web series. I feel like this year, I'm very hopeful. Like I found friends that I want to make projects
Me
with.
too.
You know,
I mean, we're gonna be
it's
what in the
it's
next 5 months making 3 movies
that's
and 3
crazy,
shorts.
actually. Yeah,
Yeah,
I also got things in the works as well. So like, stay tuned. Stay
I'll stay
tuned.
tuned. I can't
Yeah,
wait to see
stay
what you've
tuned.
got coming out.
I know. I'm looking forward to it though. Before this episode ends, like, where can they find you?
You can find me at Hidden Valley Entertainment on Instagram or at Jacob_Ellis3 on Instagram. If you want to talk about Life and Record or reach out to me about that stuff or possibly working, hit me up on my personal. That's where I conduct a lot of that stuff. The Hidden Valley Entertainment is more of our production company's platform, which is simply for media and outreach.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
would love to have a chat, maybe give some advice to you to help you get started. So feel free to reach out. My door's always open. And I'm also, like I mentioned earlier, follow Life and Record on Instagram. keep with the updates and see when it comes out, and you can see it yourself.
Hell to the yeah. Well, folks, that's it for Keeping's Real. I am Cobbina. Of course, you can follow me at Cobbina Appiah on my personal on Instagram, SPINMASTER MEDIA, and then at Keeping's Real Pod, all across from Instagram, Blue Sky, YouTube as well. Definitely click that subscribe button if you like episodes like these, and also listen to the podcast, whatever you get your podcast from, Spotify, Apple Podcast. Anything to support is really great. I really do appreciate that. But that's it for Keeping Things Real. I'm SPINMASTER C. That's Jacob. Jacob, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. This is wonderful.
Absolute pleasure.